I'm here today with Hardik Modi, who is AVP for Engineering, Threat, and Mitigation Products at NETSCOUT. How are you, Hardik?
I'm well, thanks. Thanks for having me, Kelly.
Great, glad to have you here. So things have obviously changed quite a bit for networks in the past couple of weeks as we've seen a lot of switching to distance learning, teleworking, and teleworking in particular is what we're going to be talking about today with some of the implications for enterprise networks. So give us a little bit of context about how things have changed.
Right. So even as, like, of course, in the real world, we're all kind of, working through the new realities. Like, alongside that came, the wholesale switch to people working from home. And what's been happening, what we've seen a lot in the past few weeks are like real ramp up in infrastructure provisioning, by enterprises, in particular for remote access, kind of VPN concentrators and things like that. And then, alongside that, absolutely real ramp in usage. And so everybody that we're working with has been trying to strengthen their VPN infrastructure, but also further upstream are the service providers and the serious provisioning that they've had to go through quite rapidly to kind of accommodate the new traffic. So we're hearing from our in particular our service providers that they're seeing huge uptick in, say, DNS, queries per second, video uplinks, as everyone's gone to like a video call of some kind, and then large amounts of traffic just going straight into like VPNs for the enterprises that they support. So that's kind of largely what we're seeing across the traffic landscape.
Okay. Great. So given that context with the network changes over the last few weeks, Hardik, can you talk about a little bit about what some of the major risks are for enterprise networks?
Yeah, so the enterprises that we're working with, every one of them, the first concern absolutely is availability, and that they're wondering, have they provisioned sufficiently? Both at the VPN level, the devices themselves, but also the associated network going up to their service provider. Is there, the resiliency and redundancy on those networks, is that sufficient for this new reality? And then similarly, like inside the enterprise, as they make the links into the data center, there's a significant difference between having like 10% of your employees coming in over the VPN versus say 90%, as a lot of people are seeing today. But alongside that are then the very strong concerns around security, associated with the use of VPNs. And so this is, these are things like what we focus on a lot is, the risk to availability as a result of DDoS attacks. So people launching large amounts of traffic at your networks, at your VPN concentrators, and then in the process managing to degrade performance or maybe completely deny accessibility. There's absolutely the risk of intrusions, and so the concern that people have around the variety of actors out there who want to break into your enterprise and steal information. Maybe the ransomware hasn't gone away. Those kind of risks will remain and are heightened as a result of this kind of widespread remote access.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about best practices then, because there's more than one side to that, in that there's sort of the official stuff that the IT team has to take care of, and then there's the human element as well. And we've already seen reports of, coronavirus specific scams, fraud, links that people are trying to get other people to click on. Folks are taking advantage of this for all the wrong reasons, and regular threats haven't gone away either.
Right. So I still believe in user education, and so this more than any time. This is a lot of people are shaken up by what's happened, and what is happening around them, and it's kind of it was definitely important that enterprises are communicating with their employees about acceptable use policies, like things that they want them to do and things that they don't want them doing on corporate equipment, and certainly going over corporate networks, those those absolutely remain true, and something that a lot of people are actually implementing right now, and those that aren't, I would strongly advise should. And then you kind of bring it back to okay, we have been providing a number of best practices around the use of VPN infrastructure. Some of those things people, I don't think a lot of people have thought about. This is, for example, you could enter into a peering relationship with, say, your service provider. If I know I have a large number of employees in a particular geography, let's say the state of Massachusetts, and maybe in the Boston area, and of the large providers, that broadband providers around there, you can absolutely get into a peering relationship directly with them, and thus kind of make sure that traffic isn't transiting other networks before they get to your VPN provider. We advise that at least you give some consideration to not say using the term VPN and you provide host names to your VPN infrastructure, and that way you're kind of, at least you're taking that one step away from being complete obvious to people who want to maybe DDoS your VPN. So there are a number of steps that people are doing, and others that they should be thinking about during these times.
Okay, and I want to throw in one last question, and that is for the companies that are sort of finding themselves in dire straits and need to ramp things up very, very quickly. How easy are they finding it to get the infrastructure in place, get the services in place to do what they need to do for their workforce? Obviously, the telecom is considered an essential service, generally across the board, at all levels. And so, are people able to get what they need right now? Or do you think they're seeing, delays just because everybody's trying to get the same thing at the same time?
I'd say that yes. I mean, there's if you suddenly want to provision a lot of if everybody wants to provision more VPN capacity at the same time, then that is there's a number of kind of bottlenecks in that happening for everyone. Plus, I mean, there's all the restrictions on physical movement and access and all of those concerns. I mean, just health, right? I mean, we all have to worry about certainly ourselves and people around us, and there's a number of people affected. So, however, for having said all that, I think there's a lot of scrambling going on. However, at least my understanding is that people have been able to deploy increased capacity. I mean, it's not perfect. I mean, I'm sure there's, we all experience some level of delays, and there's hopefully things continue to improve, in terms of access. But I think people are coping. I think the one downer I'll throw into this is that there's the human adversary, and those people who are continuing to conduct attacks against such infrastructure as it's more obvious that this is really central to enterprises. I expect that the number of those attacks will continue to go up, and so at least from a security, even if we get past the provisioning issues, from a security standpoint, we still have a lot to consider and confront in the times to come.
Okay, and that I'm sure will continue to evolve as people start to rely on this more and more. Great. Well, Hardik, thank you so much for the time today. Stay well, and we appreciate your perspective.
Thank you, Kelly. Take care.